know that almost 1,000 people were arbitrarily arrested and held for doing what we're doing here right now, and we're saying that's unacceptable. Because we're paying attention, we know that rubber bullets were fired at people for doing what we're doing here right now today, and we're saying that's unacceptable. Because we're paying attention, we know that hundreds of people were held in cages for up to 36 hours for doing what we're doing here today, for being journalists, for taking pictures, or for coming out of a restaurant at the wrong time, and we're saying unacceptable.
This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. What democracy looks like.
I don't think he knows what democracy looks like. You're going to get a big chance for that. One more time and as loud as you can. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Welcome one of the organizers, Ashley Fair.
Ashley. Hi everyone, how are you doing? Good, that was a good march. Good march? Yeah. Okay, so good afternoon. I'm here to tell you about CAPP a little bit, but first, I want you to look at each other, and I want you to recognize each other, because all of you are extraordinary people. I know there's lots of people that aren't here today that are also extraordinary. Because of you guys, this is why CAPP exists, because it's important for everyone to be as involved as possible in the political processes so that things like what happens at the G20 don't happen. So using background history, back in January, CAPP was formed of concerned Canadians all across the country. We came together from all political parties and some of us from no political party at all. We were frustrated with the abuse shown by Prime Minister Stephen Harper when he shut down Parliament to avoid questions regarding the abuse of Afghan detainees. After Parliament was back in session, we continued with the purpose of increasing voter turnout and people's will to get involved in politics. Clearly it's working. You're all here. This is good. At the Toronto G20 Summit, we saw gross ignorance for the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Today, we stand together all across Canada from coast to coast to call for public inquiry at all levels of government. We want to know who sent orders to detain over 900 peaceful protesters, who sent the orders to go into a designated protest zone, and who sent the orders to arrest completely uninvolved parties. Who did this and why? Today, we stand together to demand that our civil liberties be upheld at all times. This is what democracy looks like. This is what Canada looks like. Thank you.
You from the Canadian Peace Alliance, the co-chair, and also a journalist, Derek O'Keefe.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for everyone for coming out today. There's rallies across the country. Today there's a big one in Toronto, and I heard the news that there's a lot of bubbles in the air heading over the police's heads in Toronto at this rally. Did people hear about this? A young woman was arrested for blowing bubbles in Toronto, if you can believe it. What do we think of that? So, our idea of free speech includes bubble blowing, and it's not a chemical weapon, but this just gives you an idea of what happened in Toronto and what the atmosphere was. I went out to Toronto with the Canadian Peace Alliance, and my first night there was a forum about Canadian foreign policy abroad in Afghanistan and Palestine, and I was speaking on this panel with a journalist who writes from The Guardian named Jesse Rosenfeld. And while we were having this ordinary public forum in a small restaurant on Bloor Street, we noticed that there were police peeking through the windows, about 6 of them, as this was going on. And someone went out to ask the police, like, you know, what are you doing? This is a public forum. And that's it. And they asked, are there any protesters inside? So they were treating everybody in Toronto that week as a potential protester, as a potential dissident, and therefore as a criminal. So this was a whole climate that was created, and it was obvious. They didn't need any pretext. They didn't need anything to justify what they did. This was planned. as soon as you could see in the days ahead leading up to the weekend of protests that there were going to be mass arrests. There were 20,000 police officers in Toronto. That's more than one for every protester who was out for the big day of action. What do we say about turning a major Canadian city into a police state? What do we say about spending $1.3 billion for a weekend of photo ops for some of the biggest thugs and war criminals in the world?
Cut it
And what do
out!
we say to a government that would be party to ordering the biggest mass arrest in Canadian history?
Bye-bye,
and would
Harper!
stonewall and deny a full public inquiry.
Bye-bye, Harper!
That's why we're here.
Bye-bye, Harper!
I know some people have said the police weren't really doing their job, but if you think about it, in a society like ours with so many injustices, the police were doing their job, just in a little more over-the-top way than normal. They were serving and protecting, but who were they serving and protecting at the G20? They were protecting the criminals who are inside the fence. The criminals who are destroying our environment, the criminals who are waging illegal wars abroad, and the criminals who are attacking your rights every single day, who are attacking the poor people right across the country. And there are still some people in jail. It wasn't enough that they arrested over 1,000 people. They arrested journalists. They arrested that Jesse Rosenfeld, the young guy I was speaking with. On Saturday night, they punched him in the gut and hauled him away for witnessing a peaceful sit-in in front of the Novotel Hotel where delegates were staying. They arrested bystanders who walked out of their homes to see what was going on. And they even arrested some corporate media reporters live on the air, which helped the media coverage quality. But what is a real shame and an attack on free speech. So it wasn't enough that they did these mass arrests. They still have people in jail today. I think about a dozen people are still in jail and facing conspiracy charges. And quickly, I just want to say I think that's appropriate. Because there was once a time in this country where you could be charged with criminal conspiracy just for getting together and talking about organizing a union. You could be charged with criminal conspiracy if you were a group of women getting together and talking about the fight for the women's right to vote or for a right to choose. So they have always tried to criminalize dissent when people get together and fight for their rights. And we're here to say that if organizing for social justice, if dissenting, if protesting is a conspiracy, then we're all conspirators and we are proud to conspire. And as long as any one of our comrades, as long as any social justice activist is in jail in this country for organizing, we are going to continue to conspire, we are going to continue to protest, and we are going to continue to stand up for our rights. So let's continue pushing for a public inquiry, but more importantly, let's continue asserting our rights. Because you don't win anything without constant protest, without constant vigilance. And we should say that every right that we have won has involved people going to jail. It has involved people going outside of the laws of the day sometimes when those laws were unjust. And that continues to be the case today. Everything we have in that Charter of Rights and Freedoms was demanded, was fought for, and was taken from the Government of Canada, and we will continue every day if we have to continue to take our rights and to assert our free speech from coast to coast to coast. So how about we do a little more of that? This is what democracy looks like, because I think that's an appropriate one for today. And this is what political participation looks like as well. So, tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy